Alright, I'm genuinely excited for the Backrooms, but at the exact same time, I'm also nervous as hell, because this movie has the potential to become one of the greatest internet horror adaptations ever made, or one of the biggest disappointments in modern horror, and honestly, there's almost no middle ground. The moment I heard that A24 was producing a live-action Backrooms movie with Kane Pixels directing it, my first reaction was, okay, this could actually work, because unlike most studios chasing internet horror trends, Kane Pixels actually understands what made Backrooms terrifying in the first place. That's important. A lot of people still think Backrooms is just yellow rooms with monsters, but real fans know that's not what makes it scary. The horror of Backrooms comes from the feeling, that horrible feeling of existing somewhere you're not supposed to be. Endless empty rooms, fluorescent lights humming forever, the smell of old carpet, no windows, no escape, no sense of time. It's existential horror disguised as empty office space, and somehow that idea became one of the most disturbing internet horror concepts ever created. That's why Kane Pixels was honestly the smartest choice possible for this project. His original Backrooms videos on YouTube completely changed internet horror back in 2022. The found footage style felt terrifyingly believable. There was something about the way he filmed those empty liminal spaces that made people genuinely uncomfortable, not because of constant jump scares, but because it felt wrong, like reality itself was broken. That's the key thing Hollywood usually fails to understand about creepypasta horror. The fear comes from atmosphere first, not monsters, not loud music stings, not CGI creatures running at the camera every 5 minutes. And that's exactly why I'm scared this movie could still go horribly wrong, because we've seen this happen before. The biggest example? Slender Man. That movie should have been incredible. Slender Man was one of the most iconic internet horror figures ever. The original concept was genuinely disturbing, this faceless entity stalking people through forests, corrupting minds, slowly destroying reality around its victims. The internet mythology around Slender Man was terrifying, but the movie completely missed the point. Instead of psychological horror, it became generic PG-13 teen horror, with cheap jump scares, forgettable characters, bad pacing, and zero understanding of what made the original creepypasta scary. It felt corporate, safe, watered down, like a studio looked at internet horror and said, how do we make this marketable for everyone? And that's exactly what I don't want happening to the Backrooms, because Backrooms is not supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable.
Lonely, mentally exhausting. The horror comes from isolation and monotony, that endless yellow emptiness slowly eating away at your sanity. If this movie turns into non-stop chase scenes with CGI monsters, loud action sequences, or over-explained lore dumps, then the entire concept collapses immediately. And honestly, that's my biggest fear right now. I'm really worried Hollywood might over-explain the Backrooms. Please, don't do that. One of the reasons Backrooms became so iconic online is because nobody fully understands it. The ambiguity is the horror. The moment you start fully explaining where the dimension came from, who created it, or how every entity works, the mystery starts disappearing. Fear of the unknown is literally the soul of Backrooms. That's why I actually hope this movie stays weird and minimalistic. I hope it trusts the audience enough to sit in silence sometimes. Let scenes breathe. Let the environments themselves become terrifying. Because liminal horror works differently than normal horror. The emptiness becomes the monster. And visually, this movie already has insane potential. The trailer looks cold, unsettling, and deeply atmospheric. The yellow lighting alone makes me uncomfortable. The giant empty spaces somehow feel claustrophobic even though they're huge. That's hard to pull off. And honestly, A24 gives me hope here. Their horror movies usually understand atmosphere better than most studios. Movies like Hereditary, Midsommar, and The Witch succeed because they focus on tension, psychological discomfort, and emotional breakdowns instead of cheap horror tricks. That style fits Backrooms perfect, and the cast casting honestly looks strong too. Chiwetel Ejiofor and Renate Reinsve are serious actors who can absolutely carry psychological horror if the writing gives them enough emotional depth. Because another thing people forget is that Backrooms can't survive on aesthetics alone. You still need characters people care about. The audience has to emotionally feel the fear of being trapped in a reality that doesn't make sense anymore. Otherwise, the movie just becomes 2 hours of yellow hallways. And honestly, Kane Parsons being so young might actually help this movie instead of hurting it, because he comes from internet horror culture directly. He understands how modern audiences experience fear online. He understands analog horror, liminal spaces, found footage, the weird psychological discomfort internet horror creates differently than traditional horror films. That gives this project authenticity. But again, authenticity can disappear very quickly once studio interference starts happening. That's why I hope A24 lets Kane fully protect his vision. Don't turn this into generic Hollywood horror. Don't make it overly commercial. Don't force Marvel-style exposition into something that works best as abstract nightmare fuel. Let it stay strange. Let it stay quiet. Let it stay confusing. Because if this movie succeeds, it could completely change how Hollywood treats creepypasta and internet horror adaptations forever. Seriously, The Backrooms could become the first truly great cinematic internet horror adaptation, something that proves online horror concepts can evolve into serious psychological cinema without losing their identity. And if that happens, that opens the door for projects like The Mandela Catalog or Local 58 to eventually get proper high-quality adaptations too. But if The Backrooms fails, then it'll probably become another Slender Man situation all over again, a massively hyped internet horror adaptation that people immediately forget because the original YouTube videos were scarier than the movie itself. And honestly, I really don't want that to happen, because Backrooms deserves better. This concept deserves a movie that respects the psychological horror, the ambiguity, and the pure existential dread that made millions of people obsessed with it online. I'll absolutely watch The Backrooms opening night, probably late at night too, just for the atmosphere. And I genuinely hope I walk out of the theater feeling disturbed in the best possible way. Not because of monsters, but because the movie made me feel like reality itself was slightly wrong. That's what Backrooms should feel like. Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you trust A24 and Kane Parsons to finally give us a great creepypasta horror movie? Or are you worried this could become another Slender Man situation? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more horror discussions, movie reactions, and internet lore breakdowns like this. See you guys in the next one.